Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new week. I think that we could have some better opportunities this week. Sorry I'm a little bit late, always, but I'm always a little bit late, but today I had like a ton of things I had to deal with and fix and so forth, so otherwise I probably would have been on time. But one of the things that's been happening is my air conditioning is out, and so I did a bunch of stuff to keep the room cooled down and had to like clean all that stuff up. Okay, I just want to note here on the DOM, we have already had a pretty decent move. Even though there's not really any 8:30 news, but we are getting PMI numbers, including the all-important ISM. So I do expect there to be some decent activity today, even though there is a Federal Reserve meeting this week. In fact, we might see some interesting moves every day this week. We'll see. Let's come and check the charts and kind of catch our bearings here. So here's the treasuries on Friday after that jobs number, man. They got hammered pretty hard in the treasuries. They kept going. We are within Friday's range though. Not too much movement overnight. S&P 500, they took that pretty good, and we are basically to erasing was it Liberation Day? I can't remember what he even called it anymore. But they pulled back quite a bit in the overnight, though, in the S&P 500. Now, the big news overnight was oil. Oil getting hammered again with OPEC increasing output. So that's what's going on over there. And man, I am kind of concerned with OPEC increasing output. Is oil in danger of going even lower for the year? We'll see. Here's gold. Gold looking really good. By the way, Goldman Sachs saying that gold could get up to 38.80 is their upside target, but they do not expect to see the same for silver because that buying in gold is being driven primarily by central banks. So silver, they expect silver to continue to lag over there. Kappa. Okay, copper in a nice little recovery channel here. Japanese yen. Okay, so a couple of things in the Japanese yen. One thing was that, Friday, was it? They were kind of like, oh yeah, we're gonna unleash the printing machines, yada yada yada. Also, there was this whole thing about will they use treasuries with trade negotiations and all of that, and they asked them about that again overnight, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. So. Okay, then wait to bring it up. And then Bitcoin taking a little pullback and going back to the 95,000 area. So, come on, negative oil, man. This is just the fever dream, isn't it? You want it? You want that whole mess again? I don't know, man. So the question here with this shirt is one button or two buttons. I feel like this particular shirt so much better with two buttons, but I need to get something to like keep the collar stiffer or something. I don't know. All right. Oh, and let's make sure that we have the news squawk turned on. And while we were speaking, they took another little dive there. I'm a little bit concerned about treasury yields because I guess I'm still thinking like 4% is too high, but I guess it really shouldn't be. Maybe 4.5 is too high, but maybe 4.25 is more realistic. I mean, 4.25 is what we're supposed to be at anyways, right? That was a once in a lifetime trade. I was a chicken, not at least putting one contract in when it went negative. Yeah. Don't remind me of all that stuff because what happened to me was I was trying to go short oil and it wasn't working, and there kind of like got stopped out of the trade, and then that's when it really went negative. Right. So and then I flipped around and went long, and I made tons of money off of that, but it basically recovered the losses. It transferred the money from my futures account to my stock account is basically what happened. That whole mess was, whew, man, okay. There we go. What's wrong with my AC? I am not entirely sure. It is probably something really stupid. I get air comes out, but and it's fairly cold, but it's not very strong. And it just kind of like randomly stopped behaving well on Thursday. And we were concerned that it could be something, because one of the things was that like the longer you have it on, the worse it starts to do. So we were worried that maybe we would be harming something by leaving it on, so we just turned it off. There is a lot of junk in the fan outside, and the fan kind of sounds different, but I don't really know what's wrong with it. And I do not know enough about air conditioners nor have the time to try and figure it out. So I think that my wife will call somebody over today. But the thing is it hasn't gotten too hot yet. So like if we cool things down at night and then, you know, make sure that everything's covered and whatnot, it doesn't get higher than 74 degrees inside. So yeah, the fan outside is a condenser unit. It's not responsible for your air blowing inside. That's your air handler inside. So do you think that it is probably that the air handler inside is broken and not the thing outside? The reason that I was focused on the thing outside was because the first sign that something was wrong was because the condenser unit sounded weird. I'm sure if Uzi was around, he would be able to look at it and he'd know exactly what's wrong. But plus we just had issue. I don't know. I tell you what, it's super irritating, the whole like planned obsolescence thing, that like everything seems to be dying at the same time. It's just been a constant year and a half so far of every appliance having to be replaced. I've replaced my oven, I've replaced my dishwasher, I've replaced my water heater. I'm gonna have to replace my kitchen, my refrigerator. That's why I'll never buy a spec home ever again. Well, I will admit some of the things that they put in the house, like especially the oven, were never very good to begin with. Yeah. And the refrigerator, that one was before the house. I bought a refrigerator when I first bought my townhouse. So that had to have been like 2015 or so. Something like that. No, it would have had to have been even earlier than that. Probably more like 2011. So that's probably over a decade old. So, and I don't know. The refrigerator is not too bad. So the thing with the refrigerator is that there is, like it will defrost itself. And when it defrosts itself, the water's supposed to come out, and there's a drain at the bottom of it for it to drain out. But what's happening is that there's like a thing with the vent, and the frost is supposed to come down behind that and then go into the pan. But it is instead coming, it is all actually inside the freezer part. And so when it defrosts, all of that water just sinks to the bottom of the actual freezer section and freezes at the bottom of that. And then when that's filled up, then next time that it defrosts, it just leaks out the front door. So that's what's wrong with that. So I don't think that there's a fix for that. We have to replace the refrigerator. HVACs are one of those things they give a pass to on planned obsolescence. They can go a couple decades with solid annual maintenance and a periodic checkup. I would really like to get a mini split just for this room, because it gets so hot in just this room. But I don't know if it's worth it anymore, because I work during, I go into the office during the day now. And so I'm not in here that much. I would like to be in here more in the evenings. So I got to finish the desk. We never made the cableway. Finish the desk. Replace this shelf right here with a glass shelf. And hopefully that would make this room childproof enough that I could sit in here and play games, and the boys would come in and hopefully just sit and watch or be good, and I can get like a nice chair in the corner or something. I should get one of those super nice massage chairs and put it in the corner. That's what I should do. Did the annual maintenance on our HVAC system, cleaned evaporator cools in the drain line, as well as popped condenser open and cleaned the coils and vacuumed it out. So I probably need somebody to come over and just do that anyways. We're moving a little bit higher. Oh, you know what? By the way, we'd never turn the algo on. And I need to do, one of the things that's been happening to us is like, I'll be working on something on Friday, and then the weekend happens and we forget about it on Monday. But we were working on that algo, and I was saying to myself,
submitted.
I will have to build the filter into the indicator probably. I'd pay for any electrical work. Well, since I'm pretty sure that something is truly broken, I need somebody to come over and look at it anyways. Lewis, welcome. Wait, were we suspicious of him? It's a name that's not blue. I don't remember. That market order imbalance, like what it did on the tick replay, is a little sus. Probably shouldn't be taking any trades, but it says that it's long, so we went long, and I'm okay with it being long. You just gotta wait. Haven't you ever been fishing? No, I remember going fishing a few times with my dad and like not catching anything and thinking that it was just the most boring thing. And I am too ADHD to go fishing, man. I'm too ADHD for that. You haven't done anything, Lewis. You did do something. You have a gray name. Anybody here that's not a moderator is immediately under suspicion. If the pan is filled with water, there's a kill. You know, but I highly doubt that that's the problem, because it doesn't turn itself off. It's just like it stays on all day and is just kind of like weak air, and it's a little bit cool, but it's not very cool air. If that makes sense. Have the fan on at the thermostat all day? Do you know it's a Nest thermostat? I don't like the Nest thermostat. I've never seen you do anything with ML. Is that something you do? That's something that we talk about all the time, but that I haven't really gone into. No. I've messed around with machine learning models on my own, so I know the basics. But I'm not really an expert with machine learning. The whole thing is we really think that this algorithm that we've been running could really benefit from some machine learning. But there's a lot of things that we see in our measures of DOM activity that strongly suggests that there could be some sort of hidden Markov sort of setup there. Basically, if I take the DOM activity and the balance in the DOM, and I use that as a filter to determine when to go with trends versus against trends, I think that this algorithm could do really, really well. Oh, no. I'm pretty sure that it's not just that the fan setting is on at the thermostat. Yeah. Because I messed with it a lot to try and prove, like there's this whole thing that was like, okay, why is it, it seems like the AC is on all the time, but it's not getting colder. What's the deal? And the primary symptom is that it's just doesn't cool down, right? It's supposed to be 69 degrees and it's 75. So then I did things like I turned it off for a while, and like I would turn it off for like 30 minutes and then turn it back on, and that didn't really do anything. And then I did do one thing I did do was like tell it to just turn, like I turned the AC off and then told it to just turn on the fan for 30 minutes, but that didn't really. Actually, now that I think about that, I didn't even notice the air when I told it to do that. So it's just like the fan is just really weak. Yeah, the fan saying, well, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But it definitely did not have that on. Because I went in and told it to turn on for an hour, and it just went for an hour and then turned off. I'm trying to think if I've had problems with the HVAC section downstairs before. I kind of feel like I have. I feel like I can remember being down there many times. But that's because the heater has gone out like twice. Oh, not that it's gone out twice. We would have something would be in front of the intake. That's what it was. That's where I'm like, I bet you that it's going to be something dumb. So I'm not offended by Uzi asking about the blower, because I really do think that it's going to be something like that, but I don't think it's that because I have looked at that specifically. Changing the batteries in the thermostat? I do kind of feel like that it should be time to change the batteries in the thermostat, but like it's a Nest thermostat, it has a screen and everything. That seems to be working just fine. Wouldn't the Nest tell me if its batteries were getting low? Yeah, it's one of those things that's simple enough to test. Unfortunately, I have to go early, but I'm sure that my wife will go and mess around with it today. I find this action we're having in the treasuries this morning a little odd, because why was it that we dropped so hard and now it's kind of just like completely dead again? It does seem to me like somebody is selling it. Like I'm continuing to see that selling come out. It's not a ton, but these days it doesn't take very much. Change the thermostat batteries. Clean the coils inside. Where are the coils? Is that out in the condenser unit, or is there something down in where the fan is? I guess another thing was that I kind of felt like that the boys, they went outside, and it was like after they went outside was when it got, so I kind of thought, oh, they must have messed with it somehow. But then I go out and I look at it, and like there's nothing for them to even touch around it. So I can't imagine what they would do to screw it up, you know?
Order canceled.
The evaporator coils are inside the handle, so that would be downstairs. And it is flipping around now. I do think the trades that it took were appropriate according to the strategy. Except for that, you know, they shouldn't have taken 06. It could have gotten... Oh, no, I don't know. I wasn't looking at it at the time. At the time, I might have been able to get 06. When I look at it on the chart, though, it looks terrible. My handler is in a little closet, so it's a pain in the butt, but doable. Yeah, and it's probably right next to the air filter, right? It's the other thing that drives me crazy is that the basement is still super cold. I need like an air return thing that goes to the top of the house and pumps air from the basement into the top of the house. Also, I need to walk more. My butt is starting to get... I did have a good workout last week. But I'm not able to work out 4 times a week like I would like. And I'm feeling it. This is not the time of my life to be slacking on that stuff either. I'm almost 40. Can you believe that? Evaporator coil assembly is usually right after that, before the blower fan. I don't think that we've pulled that out and looked at it, so. For some reason, and because, you know, I haven't been dealing with it too much. But my wife, she was like, you know, searching and browsing about it and everything. And her theory was that the evaporator coil assembly was like icing over or something like that. That's why we were turning it off. And it did seem like that if you turned it off for 30 minutes and then turned it back on, that it was better for at least a little bit. Good morning, Abel. I don't know why, but for some reason my mind just went to the headphones again. I was like, oh, you know what? The headphones, they don't feel too bad right now. Every time immediately after I put them on, I'm like, they're too big. That's the sandwich. Filter, oil, blower, ductwork, yeah. Time is it? Oh, top of the hour. Okay, cool. I tell you what, man, 90 minutes for the stream is just not enough. Sometimes I feel like that 2.5 hours is like too long, but 90 minutes is just too short. Especially since some of the best trades are right there at the top of the hour, you know? 2 hours would probably be fine, but 90 minutes is too short. It just gives me an excuse to try and move, but I don't think that anybody wants to do that. Like if interest rates came back down so that I could get in a new house at a similar rate, I would really like to do it, but I don't think anybody in the family wants to do that. But then I could get closer and we could stay an extra 30 minutes. I don't know. More broadly, I kind of do think that I need to live further south because all the tech jobs are down there. And it seems like that the work from home thing is not sticking around. What do you think? Do you guys think that work from home jobs will just go away again? Or do you think that when the economy, interest rates normalize and the economy kind of gets a little bit better, that companies will be competing really hard and work from home jobs will come back? Not go away, but it'll probably fade. Well, I mean, it's already faded in usage considerably. I do wonder with my last job if being fully remote was a factor in being targeted. Was kind of I don't remember ever talking about this with you guys, but I do remember thinking about it a lot. Was like I got hired on to one team and it was just like 3 of us, and then and we were under the product team, and then all of the sudden the product team was like, oh, we can't we don't have time to, we have to focus on other things, so we're gonna pass you off to infrastructure engineering, essentially, right? And when I go over to infrastructure engineering, it's like all of these guys already knew each other from another job. Like there was like 4 or 5 of them that worked somewhere else. And then, the boss, when he got hired over there at the new place, he pulled all those people over. And they kind of sold it as like a positive, we take care of our own and this and that and the other. And at the time I was kind of thinking, I don't know if that's actually a good thing. Because does that mean that like they weren't actually very good at their job and they might have played a part in that company going under? Or like maybe they weren't taught very well. I did feel that some of the infrastructure stuff over there was unnecessarily convoluted and complicated for the size of the company. But now I see it as, well, what happens is they're all buddies and they've got like 8 years of being together and you're the new person. Then if somebody needs to be fired because there's a recession or anything like that, guess who they're going to get rid of? And then you're remote and you're getting paid a lot to begin with because you're the newest guy. That's what happened. I do feel, though, I feel like I dealt with the period of unemployment pretty well. I was so many times where I just felt absolutely, well, I don't know any stronger word to say than discouraged. I wish that there was a stronger word in my mind than discouraged, but I felt discouraged a lot, but I never doubted myself and just kept going. And it was just like everything else in my life, just perfectly average. I found a new job right at the average that it takes somebody to find a new job in this economy, which is about 7 months. So all in all, we did okay. But we'll see what the next 3 months brings. We're kind of in a transition period still. By the way, Matt, that brings me to timing. There is other stuff this week. What's the other stuff this week? Aside from the Federal Reserve. It is a Federal Reserve meeting this week. Nothing on Tuesday. Wow. That's crazy. On Friday, look at the schedule on Friday. We've got Williams, Barr, Kugler, Goolsby, Waller, Williams, Cook, Hammock, and Musalam all speaking after the Federal Reserve meeting on Friday. That is kind of bonkers. What is with that? We do have a 10-year bond auction Tuesday. That's kind of curious. I can't remember the last time that a Treasury auction was so close to the Federal Reserve meeting. In fact, I don't think I can ever remember that happening.
Order canceled.
In Asia and Europe, work from home is a huge perk still. You know, I get, how do you say that name? Catvin? I get kind of conflicting information from workers in Europe. Because I've heard a lot of people talk about that it's been bad in Europe for a long time. But then I've heard other people kind of be like, oh, you know, it's really great here in Europe and you Americans, you know, are having a hard time. And I don't think that I believe them. But this is the first time that somebody in my stream has said something about Europe, so I guess I'd be more prone to believe that. The thing is here in the United States, it's not that work from home is going away. It's they want you, but they don't want, like most places have moved to, you have to come into the office a certain number of times a week, sort of a thing. Because basically what's happening is individuals end up being very productive at home but teams don't. There's not enough cross communication and interactions when everybody is working from home to be super effective, which I do kind of think is a fixable problem without having to bring people into the office. You know, like if I was running an organization and it was all work from home and we had like a Slack, I would be working to ensure that there's a lot of activity in the Slack channels, like casual discussions. I think that people don't have those discussions because it's kind of like you've got to be careful about everything that you say, you know? But that's kind of the problem. That's where I kind of think that the problem is. Or maybe you could have, you know, like if everybody was working on, like let's say we were making a game and everybody kind of had a screen over here that was the game and we're interacting with the game while they were doing their work intermittently. That would maybe do it. You know, there's got to be a way to force those interactions between people that don't otherwise have to interact, but the sharing of information ends up benefiting them anyways. So that's why many companies are saying, oh, okay, well, we'll still let you work from home, but you just have to come in for meetings twice a week or something like that. But I don't really think that does it. Like at my current place, the most of, you know, that kind of interaction happens during lunch. So Seth, do you offer one-on-one coaching? You know, if you had asked me like a month or two ago, I would have been like, well, I don't normally do that, but I'm free and we could work something out. But now I just don't have the time. So I don't have the time for one-on-one coaching. On the other hand, I really feel that for most people, that you do not need one-on-one coaching from me. I have a couple of video series, depending on where you're at. If you're brand new to Futures, then go and watch my playlist that is titled Start Here. And that kind of goes into all of the things about different platforms and futures in general and that sort of stuff. And if you've already got all that stuff figured out, then just go and watch my order flow video series. So not only does that teach you how to read order flow, but it really teaches you how the market in general works and how we as retail traders kind of have to deal with that. So ways that we can deal with that essentially really gives you a good, clear view of the market in a way that most retail traders don't have. And I really think that most people, if they watch that video series and then seriously study the market, that they have the best chance a retail trader can get these days. I'm not going to say that it's going to make you successful because that's not the way that markets work, right? But I think that you're going to be more informed and have a better chance than any of the other retail traders out there trading futures. Especially since half of them really are just gambling. And then we have this live stream, right? So when you have problems, you can just come and ask me here on the live stream. And you know, the one-on-one coaching don't really have to go that extreme. Yeah, I think about it. I do kind of wonder, there is this thing that like mentorship is definitely a good way to become successful in this sort of a thing. But at the same time, I feel like that to be an effective trader, you kind of have to be somewhat independent too. There's this tension between being independent and working together with other people, because you do have to work together with other people to stand a chance as a retail trader. So How do you balance that? You know? So there was this thing on the day trading subreddit, and somebody was like, are there any YouTubers that don't sell you anything? They don't sell you anything at all. Probably not. Probably not very many. Like, I think the thing is if you want people to make a good content, you have to incentivize the creating the content itself. Like, there's this idea that these people should be making all of their money from trading and yada, 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 right? Well, if that was the case, why would they make content, right? But if they're making money from making the content and it diversifies their income and so forth, that's where you're going to get some good content. And so you kind of have to provide an incentive for somebody that otherwise would really not want to make content at all, right? So I think that most YouTubers that are any good are going to be selling you something. And the question is, what are they selling and how are they going about it, right? Some are going to be selling you just absolute trash products. And some are just go absolutely bonkers with it. Like, all of the content is basically themed towards trying to get you to buy the thing rather than to actually help you trade, right? That is definitely a problem. And so I was going through this, and one of them that they brought up was iMan Trading. It's like, he doesn't sell anything. And I said, well, he has a funded trader affiliate link. That is selling something. In fact, I think that's one of the worst things that you can sell is funded trader affiliate links. And this guy, he said multiple times that the affiliate link is there for a discount only when you're ready to buy a funded account. Now, I think that funded trader programs are overall bad for traders and that you shouldn't post them. There's nothing wrong with affiliate links. Well, how do you feel about intermarket analysis? So the way that you use that term makes me think that you're talking about some sort of program or school of thought out there that I'm not familiar with. But if I'm just going to go about the terms as I would expect them to be used in a professional setting, you need to be analyzing all markets, looking at the global economy and asking where is the money coming from and moving to is an important part of being able to predict order flows overall and finding good trades. So you don't want to just only look at the one market that you're placing orders in. You want to have a general idea of what's going on with like the entire commodities complex is kind of how I would look at it. Yes, like relative strength. Yeah. So like with stocks, especially what they call CSM, like cross-sectional momentum, definitely a thing. So seeing how one stock is performing relative to all other stocks or relative to the other stocks in their sector is a very important part of, especially if you're in the stock side. I'm making a comment here that it's like probably just that one person will read, but like I still stress about it, like my wording and everything a ton. Yeah, so I do watch a bunch of different markets. I don't watch them like on 1 minute charts, but I think the best thing here is the market analyzer. I think that the market analyzer is probably the most slept on tool in, like almost every trading platform has these. When I was at the bank, they considered the market analyzer like their most important tool, which is really kind of wild when you think about that. So I got a market analyzer up, and then, I have a chart of the S&P 500, oil, copper, gold, Japanese yen, Bitcoin. We are always at the beginning of the stream come in and look at these higher time frame charts. 1 minute charts are basically noise. Okay, but when you get to higher level, especially daily charts, then there are some things that we can kind of utilize to our advantage. So I make sure and look at this sort of stuff for all of the instruments. Let's see here. Israel has approved a plan to capture all of the Gaza Strip and remain there. Yeah. Wait, are we... should we be surprised by that? I know that you're not saying that that's surprising. It is significant news. But do you think that we should be surprised by that? Uzi's not. Mm. If it were that easy, where did I say that it was easy? I mean, if we're talking about the cross, looking at all the different assets and everything, that's just one thing. I think it helps a lot. I think it's one thing that not very many retail traders, especially like the scalpers and futures, do. That would really, really help them out. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Always the thing I'm always going to tell you is that 60% of people are going to lose in short-term trading. That's just the way that the market works. Like 60% have to lose. And if we went and we taught everybody better, it would still be 60% people lose, because it's only going to be the top percent that work well. So how are you going to get into that top percent? Well, that's one of the things. You need to be informed, and you need to be informed about, to some degree, about all the sections of the market. I pointed that out, that as a goal in a chat with Bro and Friends for nearly 2 years ago. Well, but here's the thing, Uzi. I think it's way further than that. Because remember, back in when was it? 2011 or whatever, that Israel controlled the whole strip. Right? There was a time when Israel controlled the whole strip. And that was not sunshine and rainbows, Like, there was just as many problems, probably more problems there when Israel controlled the whole strip than there is now. And there was just as many people hiding weapon stashes and all of this other kind of crazy stuff. Now, this time it might be a little bit better because, Iran's proxies are kind of, practically defunct. Just not doing very well and kind of being abandoned by Iran. And if it wasn't for Iran, that probably Gaza Strip situation would not be as bad. That's one of the things, is when you see a persistent kind of problem in the world like that, there's usually somebody funding it, Personally, I think that Israel intends not just to control the whole Gaza Strip, and not just annex it, but to get rid of the whole thing. I think that they want as many of the people living in the Gaza Strip to leave and go to neighboring countries as possible. And then the few holdouts that remain, they'll annex and become Israeli citizens at some point or something. Wasn't an account created today. I didn't see his comment. You can't make a blanket statement, but I never made this. What was the blanket statement that I made? This is kind of that one's kind of weird, because I don't think that anybody sitting here listening to us talk would have thought that from what we were saying, somebody asked me about looking at cross asset correlations and so forth, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's something that's really beneficial. And then this Roger guy comes in, you can't make blanket statements. Okay. To say that, following different sections of the market is beneficial to your trading is a blanket statement. That's a blanket statement that I'm comfortable making. Yes. Anyways, back to the subject. Do you get what I'm saying, Uzi? I kind of think that Israel has gone to it, not just okay, we need to control the Gaza Strip and yada yada. No, I think that they intend to dissolve it. Like, I'm not going to go as far as to say that they want to G-word the Gaza Strip. Okay, like, I think that they're pulling short of that. But I think that Israel has decided that the Gaza Strip is an existential threat to Israel and that they're going to get rid of it. And that's going to involve taking it over, making it somewhere that most people don't really want to live, trying to get, as many of those people to leave to neighboring countries as possible, and then, reducing the population overall through their anti-terrorism activities, and then the very, very few that are left after that, I guess they annex. I don't know. As I say that, it seems like kind of a crazy thing. But it sure does seem to me like that's the direction it's going. I think that that's much more, because I think you hear that headline and most people are thinking, oh yeah, okay. It's back to the status quo that we were like 2 decades ago, right? Nah, I think it's going to be much worse than that. I think it's going to be much worse than that. On the other hand, if they're going to take it over, then let's do it quickly so that we can actually get aid in there and so forth, because people are starving and it's just an awful situation all around, man. Awful situation all around, and it sounds like that Iran is kind of losing its grip. It kind of shifting. It's a different Iran now. I hope that this different Iran will result in a better world. So we have reason to hope it's not all terrible. Back to 06, by the way. This is exactly this sort of thing. I should zoom out here a little bit, where, again, the algorithm ends up taking kind of a little bit of a swing every time that it starts to go a little bit, but ends up doing very poorly. In fact, probably you could take almost the opposite with limit orders and you'd probably do pretty okay. Oh, by the way, did you check? So Uzi says that it was an account created today. I didn't even look. Go to channel. More about this channel. Where does it say that they were? Oh, joined May 5th. Okay. Jeez. You know what though? Like, when we aren't dealing with the troll and people are coming in and asking good questions, we have really good conversations, and the stream can be really great. Yeah, I don't arbitrarily ban people. I ban annoying people, but with him at this point, it's just gone on too long. If I get a whiff, I'm banning. Yeah, totally. I'm totally behind you. So see, when you first banned him, I was like, well, that's kind of fast, but I guess that's okay. But I didn't check the username, so. You know, it's kind of like, why, or like if you're going to come in and create disruption, why would you make the argument that he was making? Because the argument that he was making was kind of dumb, right? Because one, he was like really had to stretch to kind of turn it into, oh, what you said was bad. But then also like the position that he was taking is just a dumb position in general. But I don't know if I got my point about it off correctly, because I think that most traders would agree that like correlated assets, for instance, is one thing that can kind of help you, right? So something that's been that helps your analysis of the markets. But what I'm saying is that retail traders, I think, very seriously neglect how important it really is. Like a lot of market making strategies rely very heavily on correlated assets. A lot of the, being able to predict flows is seeing the flows in other instruments, because you can kind of come in and you can say, okay, well, a bunch of money just came out of Bitcoin. Where is that money going to go? Is it going to go to gold? Is it just going to go into the dollar? Like, when you know that there's some money on the move, if you can predict where it's going to go, then that's where you can predict order flows, right? So it's a much more fundamental and important part of doing this than I think most retail traders realize, because it's not something that they ever really spend a ton of time studying and trying to learn about. Wouldn't matter if you did it. Yeah, probably not. Well, a happy journey, that is not a brand new account. So, and he has a dragon avatar on his YouTube channel, so that I'm into that. I like that's a cute dragon. I know his face kind of looks a little like shrunken, but it's okay. It's still cute. I wasn't here for the debate. It wasn't even that happy journey. It was like they made one comment and we saw that it was a troll that had just created their account that day, and so we got rid of him. I guess what we need to do though is we kind of need to reprogram Seth here, don't we? We kind of need, because Seth's natural inclination is, okay, so here's a discussion point. Let's go into that and we can discuss that. And that's something that, tends to get everybody involved and everybody enjoys and everything, right? And I think that he's trying to exploiting that against me, right? Do you think that Happy Journey is him? Was it anti-Semitism? No, we weren't talking about anti-Semitism. Uzi was starting to go into the Israel thing, but the guy was making a point about something completely different. It had nothing to do with Israel. I'm a little bit, so like the thing with the Israel thing was, I was saying, I kind of think that Israel is going much further with the Gaza Strip than just taking it over. And nobody really said anything about that. Does that mean that you all think I'm right? Because if you all think I'm right, that kind of concerns me a little bit. Just because, like, I was kind of thought that this would be like a crazy prediction, that most people would not think that Israel would go that far. And if most people do think that Israel is going to go that far, what does that actually mean for that area of the world? I don't know. Because on one hand, like, I would like to see that situation resolved and there to be peace in that area of the world, But at the same time, and you know, I don't think that Israel is necessarily a bad actor or anything like that, but it's just the case that when you're talking about groups of people and all of the complexities involved in a government and conflicts and things like that, you do have to have people watching to keep people in line. And if everybody's just kind of like, oh, Israel's going to do that thing and doesn't push back against it, that's when, like, you know, like serious atrocities could occur. What is beyond? Well, but we're saying that not only will Israel control the Gaza Strip, but that they're going to annex it and scatter the people, essentially. They've basically decided that it is an existential threat to Israel and that they are going to find some sort of permanent solution. When they pay off U.S. politicians. So there you go. Oh, no, I don't think Iran will retaliate either. Do you know this whole thing about, well, I think it was both Iran and Russia, but Donald Trump saying like there's going to be additional tariffs on anybody that is found to be trading with these guys, trading their oil. I thought it was kind of curious. Iran has, so they have a different president there in Iran. This different president has basically kind of said, hey, let's instead of just being antagonistic towards the West at like every turn, let's try and some reconciliation a bit. And so it does seem like that there's been a shift over there. U.S. has never won a war. Well, I mean, if so, you've brought up like a whole different kind of conversation though, AL, right? Because the question is, what defines winning, right? Okay, so let's say, for instance, the Operation Desert Storm, right? We can consider that a war. What was the United States' goal in that war? I think their primary goal was to liberate Kuwait. Successful. Operation successful. Goal number 2, dispose Saddam Hussein. They didn't do that. That wasn't necessarily their explicitly stated goal, so I think we could kind of give them... Then the second time around, okay, remove Saddam Hussein from power was the primary goal that time, and then they did it, right? Yes, we spent a lot of money and stayed there for a really, really long time, and we're not successful at building that country up into like a kind of a Western style country, sure. I wouldn't necessarily say that we lost the war because of that, though. Because kind of what happens is that the United States wins the war against the government, but loses the war against the people, right? We want to impose our system of government and our views of the world onto other cultures. And we believe that, you know, if we're there long enough and generations will grow up under us and they'll view the world differently and then it will shift. And that's not what happens, right? So if there was a war between the United States and Iran, with the goal of deposing the radical Islamist religious, I forget what they call it, that's in charge over there, they would probably be successful at that. Would the U.S. then stick around and like occupy it for 3 decades and all? That would probably be a disaster. I don't think that would quite happen in that particular instance, though. Hmm. Yeah, I guess I don't really see where AO is going. So you think that if there, well, why would you think that there would be a war with Iran anyways? I don't know why you're bringing it up like that, but okay. Happy Journey says I'm definitely thinking. Oh no. There we had a news story that they are basically the plan is for them to control the entire Gaza Strip. They don't control the whole strip right now, but they will. That is their plan. They will occupy the whole strip just like they did 20 years ago. Okay, he says that our leaders are morons. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna push back on this one. I really think that the conventional wisdom on this is wrong, because everybody basically says, oh, like everything would be fine and so great if we didn't have terrible leaders. The United States consistently has terrible leaders. If we had a good leader, then we could solve all of these problems. And that's why you get some people that vote for Donald Trump, because they think that he's a strong leader that would solve those problems. Maybe then there's a bunch of other people that are like, nope, he's like the worst leader you could possibly get, right? And you're going to go back and forth on this forever. I think that what you're going to really find when you really look at the history and you really understand the world is that there is no human that is smart enough or good enough to be that perfect leader that just comes in and solves all the problems. The real issue is that is complexity. It's complexity. We don't understand enough about how the individual interactions that you have in the individual foreign policy decisions that you make, how those affect people's behavior overall and result in other higher level behavior. And so you're constantly playing a game of whack-a-mole. You come in and you think, oh, here's this problem. Let's solve it with this thing. And then that creates some other unrealized consequence. And so then you have to go and hit that one, right? Because not using the tools like agent-based modeling to be able to manage the complexity and anticipate these problems before we implement the policy. To go in and look at, okay, here are all of our different policy options. Let's simulate them out and see what kind of emergent behavior comes from them. And we can pick an optimal solution based on that. And then even with that optimal solution, there probably are going to be some knockoff effects that are going to be negative, but we know that they're going to happen and we'll be ready there waiting to deal with them. So it is really not your leaders. It is, you need a system that can adequately handle complexity. And right now, in the West, our government is not able to handle complexity. Our society, human culture in general, does not scale with complexity right now. That's where we get all the problems. Eventually, I'm sure that we will, but especially when you're the #1 world superpower. If the U.S. strikes Iran, I don't agree with that either. I mean, if the U.S. were to strike Iran, it would increase the price of oil for sure. But I think that it would increase the price of oil like 10 or 20 bucks, not like to 250. That would be crazy. Because we already have embargoes. Nobody's supposed to be buying Iranian oil anyways. And if something like that happened, OPEC would almost certainly come in and start increasing production. I mean, they're already increasing production, but I don't think that OPEC would side with Iran. So I think that would probably prevent oil from getting too crazy in that situation. Like, listen, if it got to $100 a barrel, that sounds like more reasonable. But like $250, that sounds like a little bit That sounds a little fantastical. Okay, don't let me lose my focus here. We got 10 minutes. Then we get this services ISM number. Oh, here's a chart showing us how much oil we get from Iran. I'd like to see. Oh boy. Oh, yes. Well, like, not only do we get that much oil from Iran, but we haven't gotten very much oil from Iran for a really, really long time. But that's to the United States. I don't know about the world over. So basically, are we saying, or would you say it's accurate that if Iran had not taken the path that they chose, and they were more like Saudi Arabia, like they were friendly with the West, that Iran would be a fantastically rich country like Saudi Arabia? Because they do have oil over there, right? You should fix your own issues in the US. It sure does. Yeah. I know. I mean, we know AO has been around for a long time, right? But I feel like that's just a very you're taking like a very extreme position here that is kind of feels like not equal to the situation at hand, you know? Iran has more oil than the Saudi, really? Well, but the thing is I don't know why you think that we would have a war with Iran. I mean, if we did have a war with Iran, you know, the way that it would go is we could talk about that. And it's not like a war with Iran is not like impossible. I think that it is just like not the current trajectory, right? There was a point maybe 2 years ago when it was kind of like a war with Iran was like a serious concern, right? But things have changed. It's not the current trajectory. So I guess the first thing is, do you really think that that we are headed for a war with Iran? Because I don't think that we are. The whole thing I've been saying is that it kind of seems like Iran is changing. Your leaders want the war. Well, I think that it's a little bit more complicated than that. Can you set up NinjaTrader to trigger trades when the market moves a certain amount of ticks in one direction without using NinjaScript? Maybe. But even then, okay, so you could do something like, I mean, you would have to find an indicator that gives you the setup that you want, right? Oh, maybe not with an ATM strategy, though. You could just say if it moves up 4 ticks and put a stop order in there, and then once that stop order triggered, then the ATM strategies would take over. The Houthis have shut off the Strait of Hormuz. So who was I seeing talking about this? It was some pro-Trump guy, and he was saying like that the Red Sea is opening back up again. And I was like, is that really true? Because like didn't a plane fall into the sea like last week? Some people are arguing that the Red Sea is opening up and that the whole Houthi thing is kind of that they are failing. So there are some people out there that do not see it that way, but I don't think that I know enough about, nor do I think that AO knows enough about where things are headed there to say. Why are people so afraid of slippage so much? I mean, many YouTubers, and like, is slippage a big issue with stop orders? It is. Well, so like just the thing that we're showing here with my my algorithm, if it was getting a limit order every time, then it would probably make money almost every trade. So like one ticket slippage on each side can absolutely be the difference between you made money or lost money. Like it's just one of many problems that you have to solve. It is a big deal. But then on top of that, there's lots of things that retail traders are kind of doing that are basically like, that's only going to work if you can capture the spread. And ergo, if you're catching any kind of slippage on trades, kind of breaks your strategy. And yeah, every once in a while, like we have caught 10 points of slippage before on something. So that'll definitely kill your strategy, right? Granted, I do kind of understand what you're saying. There's some people that seem to be so hyper focused on it. It's like I'll always see this comment that's like, well, I really want to trade, but I'm afraid of the slippage. And I think that that's just because there's this whole thing that like you can lose more than you put in futures, and they're concerned that like they're going to get stuck in a trade and they're going to catch slippage and then suddenly owe $10,000 or something like that. And it doesn't work that way, but I totally understand US criticism, but what people are willing to root for and the assumptions they make because of that criticism are often categorically stupid. I agree. But it's the same kind of problem from a different direction, right? Many of those opinions lack the nuance and complexity to be able to analyze the situation. I really think that most of the problems in the world are really problems of complexity. Most of them.
Order canceled.
So it lost a tick on one trade and made a tick on one trade. Oh, but it is down 2 ticks. I remember when Israel started its revenge rampage and people were calling for $250 barrel of oil and it didn't happen. And then Iran straight up did get involved and launched its drone wave and the market. Oh, dude, right? That so I don't remember about the $250 barrel of oil bit, but I certainly do remember everybody getting really worked up about Iran and Israel attacking each other and a war breaking out over there, and then it not really happening. But the thing that's really interesting about that, Uzi, is that this whole thing with that I've been saying where we have a different Iran now, the whole thing about the new Iranian president and him coming in and wanting to take a different direction kind of happened at the same time. Like that transition was happening right as Israel and Iran were attacking each other. So like they attacked each other and then the president came in and was like, no, that's not the way that we want to go. We're trying to cool things off. And then they did cool things off. So that was, okay, so here's the news. Oh, how come I'm not hearing the news squawk? Oh, I must have turned it off somehow. Okay, but ISM services PMI higher than expected at 51.6 versus an expected 50.3. And prices paid much higher than expected, 65.1 versus 61.4. So that's, yeah, they're getting killed. You know, if I wasn't supposed to be leaving at this moment, I would maybe try and take a trade. But, man. Ooh, how much further could it go? because I think we just busted through. Yeah, 111 was kind of like a key spot. So now we're getting back to so remember, well, we'll come back over here and show you the chart.
Order submitted.
So here was tariffs could be bad. Oh, tariffs happened. It's super crazy. Then people were selling treasuries for who knows why. Recovery. Okay, and then this was like a real recovery. And now we're back to that spot after the recovery. Now this has been happening, I think, primarily because the economic numbers are all stronger than people anticipated, I think. So, well, the next spot that we would have to look at then would be 110.18. That is within the realm of possibilities, I suppose. But I'm gonna guess that what's likely to happen is another wave could come through and push us down, but then after that wave is over, we again rebalance at 111. We're very, very likely to get stuck around this 111. So, and it is already kind of acting as support, interestingly enough. Does this change anything about the Federal Reserve meeting, though? I kind of don't feel like it is. I read stuff about you can potentially owe more than you have in your account with blown futures accounts. How often have you ever heard about that being the case? Like, I've only heard about it happening like once. But if you are a retail trader and you're trading like, you know, a handful of contracts, that's really not an issue. That's really not an issue. The place, and if you're not holding overnight, the place where this sort of thing happens is like, you have a large enough account to hold it overnight, and you hold it overnight, and then there's some crazy move that you don't expect. That's where that sort of thing happens. So it's very unlikely to happen to anybody, you know, scalping. Okay. It's kind of like bigger fish that sort of thing happens to. Again, primarily from holding overnight. Okay, guys, it is time for me to get going, so I will see you tomorrow. I'm interested to see where this ends up. I will be commenting on the $3 Discord. So if you're over there, say hi. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Stay excellent, team.